All right, we are back here on the podcast recapping the big game. Chiefs beat the Eagles 38-35 near the gun to win their second Super Bowl in 4 years. As is tradition here on the podcast, we're breaking down the Super Bowl once again with our NFL guy, Joe Daloizo is here. Joe, how are you?
Mike, I am doing well. What a great Super Bowl that we all just witnessed. A little depressing, though, now that we will go some time without NFL football.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you are big XFL guys. You gonna start watching the XFL on Saturday?
You know what? It's just so tough, man. Between the XFL, USFL, I know the Arena League is coming back. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. If they don't get the star power that the NFL has, then I really think it's going to be hard for them to survive.
USL thing, SFL thing is weird too because I know that friends of the podcast, Mike Demurray is a big USFL guy, but like it's weird that they have these 8 teams they're supposed to represent different states to play all the games like two of them. Makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't like the home base location for the entire league. I guess the reason why they're doing it is to bring people to one spot, but we'll never be able to go to a game unless they start playing in this area, right? So I don't know. Bottom line is it'll never compete with the NFL just based on talent and the players that we just saw in the Super Bowl, you know, cream of the crop.
Yeah, absolutely. Here and speaking of the Super Bowl here, I think probably one of the best games we've had the last decade or so because obviously you had the big comeback here, you have these big momentum swings throughout the game, and like honestly, this is not a game where anybody really lost. It's more a matter of here like the Chiefs just took it away from the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, this was an action-packed game. Like you mentioned, one of the better games that we've seen in the last decade or so. I was actually surprised. I expected a little bit more defense. I did not expect both teams to score in the 30s.
Yeah.
Going into this matchup, everyone was talking about the Eagles' defensive line. Still waiting for them to show up because credit to KC's offensive line, but they held their own. And just the back and forth, and at any point of this game, you never felt like one team was taking it until the end, man. It was a great Super Bowl.
It certainly was here. Two things I want to start get out of the way here really quickly here is number one, like the two things probably I had with the game overall was I don't know how the league let the field be that bad for that game, considering we heard all of the reports that they days before, like, oh, we've built this grass field 2 years ago just for this game. And all of a sudden everybody's slipping and sliding out there. I think one of the Eagles linemen said it was like playing on a water park. I mean, you got to do better than that if you're the league.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I mean, that's part of it, though. I mean, I don't think the field condition played that big of a role in the outcome, right? If there was slipping and sliding, all right, if they played on turf and someone tore their ACL, they'd be complaining that they played on turf, right? So at the end of the day, you're never going to get 100% full consensus, everyone's happy kind of a thing. I had no issues with it. Listen, it's part of it. Make the adjustments that you need to do. If you have to change your cleats, change your cleats. If you need to clean them in between, clean them in between. There are things that you could do to make it a little bit better. So to be honest with you, yeah, they've been prepping the field for 2 years. Should it have been better? Sure. I'm not buying it though.
Yeah. The other one is the officiating, which obviously has been a storyline throughout the playoffs here. I mean, we can talk all day about the catch, no catch thing, which I think they still have no idea of 25 years later what a catch is in the NFL based on those two calls we had. But do you have a problem with that, with the hold in the last play of the game with the James Bradbury situation? I mean, Bradbury made it was a hold, but I think my issue is not that it was a penalty, but the fact that we called nothing all game, and all of a sudden we're throwing a flag at the most important moment. I think it's either a flag all game or it's not a flag at all.
So here's the thing, and going to the catch thing, I think we'll never finally figure out what a catch is versus what isn't a catch. It's just it's what created a new brand for the NFL. What is a catch versus what is not a catch? With that being said, 100% it's a flag. You got to call it. And I thought the officiating was fine. I mean, they let them play. But listen, at a pivotal moment, I mean, you're not going to just not call that because you haven't called flags. I mean, I thought the flow of the game was really great throughout. But if you don't call that, that is an egregious miscall right there,
Yep.
right? It was clear as day. And you know what? I give James Bradbury a lot of credit coming out after that game and saying, "Hey, I held him. I thought I was going to get away with it, but I held him." Right? So there's no room for debate now. Oh, was it a flag? Wasn't it a flag? So I have no problem with them calling it. Obviously, it takes so much juice out of such an exciting game once that flag is called. But man, it's the right call. I mean, you can't argue that. It's the right call. I don't care what the refs did earlier in the game. You got to make them you got to make the calls when they count, and it counted there, and they got it right.
Yeah, it certainly did.
And I'm not someone to always defend the refs, but I mean, I thought they did a great, a solid job.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for the league too, because you know that now there's gonna be a whole lot of remember after the HTH game, they had the whole the NFL scripted like thing on Twitter, and like people's like, oh, here's the script again. Like they're gonna have some of those people coming out the woodwork too.
Yeah, but you know what? I've seen so many of those videos and TikToks of the NFL script has been leaked, and they couldn't have been more wrong with what people thought was going to happen in this Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's for sure here. The Super Bowl year. I mean, first half of this game was like Philly dominates the first half. They're up 24-14 at the locker room. I'm feeling very good. I made predictions like, oh, Eagles going to win, dominate the trenches, all this stuff here. Mahomes deal with the hurt ankle here. They come back second half, Kansas City, and steal this game away from the Eagles. How did they do, in your opinion?
Well, I think the biggest thing is Nick Sirianni was playing checkers and Andy Reid was playing chess. All right. Andy Reid, what surprised me in that first half was not getting the ball first, knowing how good the Eagles have been on first possession, first drives. But I mean, Andy Reid outcoached Nick Sirianni, ran circles around him in that second half. Made the offense simple, used and did what was effective, and got the job done. I mean, look at the 2 touchdowns late in the game. They ran the same exact play twice. 2 different players, opposite side of the field. Same result both times. That's just knowing what's going on out there, knowing the tendencies, catching on to things, and using it at the right time, at the right moment. I mean, it also helps when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes commanding the field, right? That always makes it a lot easier. But I think the Chiefs were able to settle down, and coaching played a huge role in that second half.
Yeah, I remember I was reading Peter King's Football Morning in America column. They talk about those 2 plays. They called the play was called corn dog, according to Andy Reid here, and let the play you talk about in the end zone there. And it's amazing that like a guy who's getting head coach interviews now in the Eagles as a coordinator, Jonathan Gann. That could be a fun conversation going there. It's like, how'd you get fooled by the same play twice in the biggest game and have chief receivers wide open and like on both sides of the field for touchdowns? That basically cost.
Yeah, I wouldn't know how to answer that. I wouldn't know how to answer that. But listen, you got to give Andy Reid and that offense a ton of credit, because a lot of people going into this season thought, oh, with the loss of Tyreek Hill, how are they going to figure the things out? I mean, you got a running back in Isaiah Pacheco, who, if you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Isaiah Pacheco would play a huge role in this Chiefs offense, I would have said, first of all, who is he and what are you talking about? Right? Then you make that move to bring in a Kadarius Toney, who was a disaster in New York, goes to a new home, plays with a legit quarterback, finds his groove, does his thing when called upon. They were able to lose Tyreek Hill and supplement them with a bunch of different players. Obviously, Travis Kelce's there, but between Sky Moore, MVS, Juju Smith, Kadarius Toney, and they put those guys in the right position week after week to get them where they needed to be.
Yeah, I think 2 underrated plays that game here. I think people forget about too is number 1, the punt return by Kadarius Toney, like in the second half, brings him down to the 5 yards. That's a very easy touchdown. Back in the first half, I mean, the fumble return for a touchdown on Nick Bolton also is a big deal. The Chiefs were getting dominated early on here. I don't think without the 7 points, I think it's a lot harder for them to come back.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, that's a huge part of that game that I don't think a lot of people are talking about. With that being said, going back to Kadarius Toney, if he takes that back to the house, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is getting the MVP. But if he took that back, plus the touchdown reception that he had, it's like, whoa, like he completely changed this game right now. Could he potentially be the Super Bowl MVP, which would have drove Giants fans wildly crazy? But that fumble was huge. That fumble was huge and really kind of changed the momentum, number 1, and kept the Chiefs right there with it. Because in that first half, the way that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles offense was moving the ball, I said, wow, this is going to be a tough one, but this is going to be a great game.
Yeah, it certainly is here. Tony would have history on his side too, the R, because I don't think there's ever been a punt return for a touchdown in the history of the Super Bowl. So if he was at the first one, he scored the game-winning touchdown here. I mean, would have been a compelling argument. I know Mahomes would have won anyway, but still, he would have had a case.
Oh, without a doubt, it would be foolish to not consider him.
Yeah. Speaking of Patrick Mahomes here, I mean, I talk about this in the open the podcast, and when he gets hurt at the end of the first half, with the ankle gets rolled up on, you see him in the sideline agony, you're sitting there thinking, like, oh no, how much time is he gonna miss in this game? Then I had this brilliant thought. I had like, wait a minute, like extended halftime, Rihanna's gonna save Patrick Mahomes because he ends up not missing a snap. He comes back, he leads the Chiefs down the field multiple times. And I gotta say, I think the defining play of the game is not even like any pass he made, but that 26-yard scramble on the bad ankle to get the pick up the third down conversion late in the game. I mean, like this was probably one of the all-time Patrick Mahomes performances.
Yeah, no, I mean, he came into this game banged up. He obviously played banged up. When he got hurt, the only thing I said was he's got to be on the field. If he doesn't get back on this field, this game is over, complete blowout. Eagles are walking to the Lombardi trophy. I mean, they already got lucky with Brock Purdy. Like, is it going to happen again with Mahomes? And if that was the case, game over, game over. But, to see him fight back, get back on that field and just be as effective as he was, I mean, incredible, incredible. And if you really look at his other two Super Bowls that he's been in, stat wise, nothing jumped off the chart. Like an injured Patrick Mahomes this year arguably had his best Super Bowl. It's incredible.
I mean, you look at his numbers overall. I mean, like he only threw for 182 yards, but he did throw for 3 touchdowns. Like we had 21 and 27 passes here, and he had the big run. So like this, like not making the highlight reel plays, making all the plays he needs to make though.
Efficiency at its finest, and that's what you need in the biggest moments.
Yep.
You don't need that 70-yard bomb. Dink and doink, get down the field and get points, and that's what they did.
Absolutely here. And obviously now the conversation is going to start about whether or not the Chiefs are becoming an NFL dynasty. And I mean, I don't know how you feel this. I personally feel like until you win back to back, you can't really be in the dynasty conversation here. But I mean, they're starting to put the resume together. I mean, they've been to 5 straight AFC Championship games, 3 out of 4 Super Bowls they've won 2. I mean, we're getting close.
No, I mean, I think they're there, man. I know I hear your argument about the back-to-back Super Bowls, but I mean, look at what you just rattled off. 5 consecutive AFC championship games, 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins. Like, it's one thing when you win that first Super Bowl, but when you win that second one, like you solidify yourself. Yeah. Right. And this team, as long as Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, right? I'm going to throw all 3 of them there in that same category. They're on this team. You could put anyone on that offense and they're going to make it work. Right. If they continue to improve on that defensive side of things, geez, man, it's going to be real tough beating the Chiefs anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that here. I mean, like we haven't had a repeat champion in the NFL since like the Patriots back, I think, in Super Bowls 38, 39 here. That's going to be highly motivated. I can't say next year, say, hey, we need to do that to sort of like put our place even further in the history books.
Oh, without a doubt. And, I wouldn't be surprised if KC's back there next year or if they miss a year, the year following. I mean, they are going to be the cream of the crop, top of the AFC for years to come, as long as Patrick Mahomes is running the show there. But I think in terms of dynasty, they're right there. I mean, listen, it's tough to win 1 Super Bowl. All right. I just saw Patrick Mahomes win his 2nd Super Bowl. Right. I've gone as a Packer fan 20 plus years with 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks combined win 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah. It's not easy. I mean, like all these great quarterbacks, like won 1, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, you brought up here, Drew Brees can never get the 2nd one. Russell Wilson's had trouble getting the 2nd one here. I mean, Ben got 2. Brady outseen all about him. Man took a long time to get the 2nd. Patrick Mahomes got 2 this fast. Is also very impressive.
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, in terms of a legacy, not that he needed a 2nd Super Bowl to cement his legacy, but geez, I can't believe we're talking about legacy. The kid's still in his 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, let's go to Philly for a minute here. I mean, I also want to give props to Jalen Hurts. I think arguably had the best performance of a losing quarterback in Super Bowl history here. I mean, he's running for 70 yards, 3 touchdowns. Those were over 300 yards at the 45-yard touchdown bomb to A.J. Brown. There's not much that Jalen Hurts could have done differently to really help the Eagles win that game.
No, and if there was like any slight inclination or uncertainty of Jalen Hurts and him being a franchise quarterback or leading this team, even with this loss, that should be out the door. Jalen Hurts balled out on Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, it was unfortunate that, what ends up being the difference maker long term, obviously that penalty played a huge role. But that first half fumble, huge. But you can't take away his performance. I thought he was great. If you're a Philly fan, you should be really excited. You should be really excited because he's going to be there for a while. And he clearly showed that he is talented, and he's got weapons around him.
Yeah,
so I really think Hurts. Obviously a lot easier said than done. Keep that head up high. The Eagles are going to be there again soon.
I also love his attitude after the game. He's talking to the reporters here. He didn't really throw anybody on the bus. Say, hey, like either you win or you learn. We learned a lot here today, but we'll be back. Basically, he was very low key, very confident, like in his team. I felt good about that.
Yeah, you got to respect that. You got to respect that, and he rose to the occasion. He stepped up. He stepped up. He played. He went toe to toe with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, that's not an easy task to do.
Yeah, one thing I feel like I got to talk about also with the Eagles that does bother me a lot. I feel like you feel the same way here. Their proficiency with the quarterback sneaks here, where basically they line up this basically the victory formation. They have two guys behind Jalen Hurts to shove them over the line here. The NFL needs to look at that. That's not football. That's a rugby scrum. That's not the. I don't think this should be in the game.
Yeah, I know that's definitely an interesting thing to kind of see if the NFL does anything about. And it's not just Philly. I mean, Philly does a great job with it, but you see it all the time when you need an inch or so that, you have two big guys behind and they're just literally carrying the quarterback forward to get that inch or that yard that they need. I'm with you. I don't love it, right? There's got to be a better way. And it's interesting because I don't remember seeing this as often years ago, right? I just remember the casual, quarterback sneak with not guys pushing. But I would really be curious, and if anyone knows this, to send me a link, send you a link to see when this really started, or has this always been a thing? Because I feel like it's become more and more popular. I don't love it. I don't love it.
I think Philly sort of broke this a little bit because I think this is really once Jalen Hurts came in last year, started doing this a bit and then really took it to the next level this year. I mean, I know you're talking about the old school techniques. Like Tom Brady was an expert at this, like just like lining up and finding the right hole, diving forward for the 6 inches, getting the first down. Like that's not the same thing as having two big linemen behind you or a tight end just shoving you forward for the thing. That's not really what the idea here.
Totally, totally. But it's like, what does the NFL do, right? What do they do? You're not allowed to run that formation. It's an illegal formation, or what's the goal? What can they potentially do with this?
My guess would be like this sort of like some sort of like penalty written in the books here, like that you can't like push the guy forward. That you get a 5 yard penalty if you do that or something like
So
that.
no forward progress if the player is pushed, maybe.
Yeah, it's like again, I mean, it's tricky area. Or nowhere asking a lot of officials already. Like a judge always say intentional push, where there's a guy kind of pushed into the guy, but like if it's
Well, I
blatant,
think
yeah,
I mean, I think it's different. I think it's pretty blatant if like you have two guys that are lined up behind you and you're actively going forward with him in front. I think, that's pretty obvious. But I don't know, maybe they do something similar to the slide that if, you're actively pushing from behind, it's, the play's dead.
yeah, yeah. We'll see what they do about that.
Which shout out to Jerick McKinnon, who, a lot of people probably hate money wise, but man, smart football move not going into the end zone right there.
Yeah, I love Greg Olson too. During the broadcast, he's calling out his running. You got to get down. You got to get down. He immediately goes down here. I feel bad for him too because you know that like once Tom Brady decides he wants to go in that booth, he's going to drop to number 2. And he's losing I think like $7 million in salary. With
Yeah,
that.
you know what though, when it comes to Greg Olson, like he proved himself. He's incredible in the booth. Like he definitely has a role, and he's gonna have a prominent job in sports media with the NFL. Like he killed it. I thought he did excellent this season.
My guess is whenever Collinsworth hangs it up at NBC, Fox is going to call NBC's going to call Fox and ask and try and get Olsen out them to be their number 1 guy.
Yeah, it could definitely could. I could definitely see that happening. I mean, it sucks. Obviously, he's going to have to take that back seat once Tom Brady's ready. But hey, he proved himself. He had a huge year, and this was a contract year for Olsen, right? Yeah. He's getting paid. Don't worry.
Yeah, I hope Brady actually is as good at this as if people think he will, because from what I've been reading, people think he's actually gonna put the work in to be good at it. Unlike Romo, who's sort of fallen off from like his first year. I feel like I don't know if you heard the storylines about like how like CBS sent like people to Romo's like home in Dallas saying like you need to work harder on this. He apparently didn't follow what they wanted him to do.
Yeah, I kind of I like the Romo early on, but now I've had enough of the shtick, like the predicting what's going to happen or watch this. Like, just let me watch the game. All right, let me watch the game. I don't know what to expect with Tom Brady, to be honest with you. Right, I have no idea. I mean, we've seen him interview. We see how he commands press conferences. I feel like he won't have any issues in that sense, but it'll be interesting to hear him in the booth.
Certainly will here. And wrap up the Super Bowl here with the Eagles situation here. I mean, Philly, I feel like this team, like they have a bunch of free agents, especially the defensive line this season. I feel like this is a team that's set up to be in the mix for a long time here.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got to kind of keep together that nucleus that they had, figure out a way to keep together the guys that helped them get there. I mean, the one disappointing thing from this Super Bowl from the Eagles side is that defensive line was completely, a no-show, 0 sacks. I mean, that's crazy. If you would have told me at the beginning of the game where there was a prop bet that the Eagles would have 0 sacks, I would have definitely not taken that. I would have said absolutely. They're getting after Patrick Mahomes at least once. I mean, I even took a prop bet that there'd be a sack before a touchdown. Didn't hit. Right? Eagles march right down the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if I'm the Eagles, I do everything that I can to bring back as many people as I can, keep that defensive line intact and strong, and I continue to build the offensive line. I know it's a passing league now, but offensive line is everything in the NFL.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, they have 3 guys in that defensive line who are big free agents, including Brandon Graham, Hargrave, and Fletcher Cox. But the good thing for them is that thanks to these very dumb trade the Saints made last year, trade up for Chris Olave, they have the 10th pick of the draft. So the Phillies going to get more loaded again.
Yeah, I mean, you do well in the draft. You could get a difference maker on a team that was just in the Super Bowl, which is incredible to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's literally insane here. And now let's get to the offseason a little bit here. Before we get there, though, I do want to sort of close the book on our over-unders here because this one did come down to the wire. So I'm gonna put I'm gonna put the logo up, the doc up here that I tracked it up here. On the year, you ended up going 2-4 because the Steeler late surge cost you dearly. They managed to hit the over somehow.
Of course.
Yeah. You went 2-4. I went 3-3, so I did win once again, barely.
Barely.
Yeah.
You got my number on the over under.
Yeah, this was a much tighter one than last year was.
Definitely. It definitely was. Well, I mean, yeah, the Steelers really did a number on me, huh?
Yeah, I thought like when you were 2, it's like, oh, Joe's got that one in the bag. I'm like, Joe's got like that one, like laughing to the bank on the way home. And instead they win like 5 of their last 6 to get that.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Yikes.
Yeah.
Hey, there's always next season.
There always is. And this will be fun when we do it again next year.
Hold on. Wait a second now. Am I reading this correctly? You had a real rough year in the picks, huh?
Well, I did finish pretty. This is from Christmas when we were on here. So.
Oh, okay.
I did I did finish pretty strong. I was like, I think it was like 100, 500 by the end of the year. So
okay, all right, well that's a big surge late because looking at that 18-26-1, not so hot, Mike, not so hot.
No, definitely not so hot here. And I feel like a couple offseason things. Don't want to go too deep on it because I feel there's a lot of mystery here. But I think the big things I want to start here, the quarterback carousel is gonna be a lot of fun because I mean, obviously you got your guy going off on his darkness retreat for a couple of days, decide he wants to play football next year. Derek Carr, Garoppolo, Tannehill. There's a lot of dominoes in the air here.
Should I shut the lights so I could join my compadre?
Yeah, we have our own darkness retreat.
Okay, would you like me to shut them when I could give you my decision on what I think is going to happen? No, I mean, listen, there's a lot of moving pieces going on. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. When it comes to Rodgers, I think that his time in Green Bay is done. I really do. It pains me to say this, but I think it's time for that organization to kind of rip the Band-Aid off and see what you got. I mean, you drafted this guy Jordan Love. You don't know what he is. You're gonna have to pay him. It's inevitable, right? And also, it's kind of getting. I'm tired of the drama every offseason at this point, and it's just so eerily similar to what happened with Brett Favre, and I'm over it. Like, all right, you want to go to the Jets? By all means, go to the Jets. You want to go to the Raiders? Go ahead, go to the Raiders. Honestly, I think he ends up with the Jets. I really do.
It'd be freaky deja vu if that happened again.
Yeah, it would be really strange. But like, what else would be better than Aaron Rodgers going to the Jets and winning a Super Bowl for the Jets? Something that Brett Favre couldn't do. Like, oh my God, I would go on a darkness retreat for about a month.
And in regards to Brett Favre, I mean, people talk about how it ended, but I mean, Brett Favre was 8-3 with the Jets, had them on top of the AFC, and if he didn't use his massive ego, insist he keeps playing through an elbow injury, clearly impacted the ability to throw the football, I think they would have been in much better shape.
Oh, without a doubt, that's something that not a lot of people talk about. The thing is like obviously the Packers, if they do move him, they're moving him to the AFC. Like that's not up for debate. With that being said, like, it's going to be tough. I mean, Aaron Rodgers obviously didn't play his best football this past season. Is he done? No, but is he that same MVP quarterback? I don't think so. I don't know. Like, I really don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if he had such a great year in a new home. But I mean, think about some of the quarterbacks that you're going up against. I mean, if you end up going to the Raiders, which I don't think this is going to happen. I mean, look at the quarterbacks in that division alone. Good luck.
You got Mahomes and Herbert, and maybe if Peyton affects Russell Wilson, that's a very rough division.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think about. And just in the AFC, I mean, you have all those that you just named, plus more. So it's going to be tough. But right now, it just seems like the Jets are destination number one, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, for me, I'd be shocked that Jets don't end up with somebody in that bucket of Rodgers, Carr, or Garoppolo. I'd be shocked it's not one of those three.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, what the Jets are doing right now is they're bringing every single possible assistant, offensive coordinator, special coach on their staff that has any link to a veteran quarterback. It's kind of like hilarious.
Yeah.
You have obviously the connection with Jimmy Garoppolo and Saleh. You got the connection with Nathaniel Hackett and Rodgers. They just brought in an offensive pass game specialist from Tennessee in hopes of getting Ryan Tannehill. Like
He's also
they,
coached Derek Carr.
yeah, and he's coached Derek Carr, exactly. So like you have your hand in every single potential person. But I will say this: there's a big drop off there.
Yeah.
You end up with Aaron Rodgers, okay, but if you end up with Carr or Tannehill, I don't know how much better you really are.
I mean, I think they get average quarterback play. I think they're in the playoffs and they're like in the mix if things break their way. But I think if Rodgers the best shot at being a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, but I mean, like, okay, you get average quarterback play and you're in the playoffs. What does that mean? Like, is the goal to make the playoffs? Like, that's the debate here. Like, the goal is never just to make the playoffs, and that's why people say I'm spoiled as a Packers fan because I'm constantly seeing winning seasons and my team in the playoffs. But what does that mean if you don't win?
Well, my team hasn't made the playoffs in 12 years. I think the playoffs
Yeah,
will
I
be
mean, of
over us.
course. So a playoff appearance would be great, and you're going to be happy that they made the playoffs. But if you keep making the playoffs for 7 straight years, let's just say, and you don't have a Super Bowl, then at some point it gets tiresome. Like, oh, great, we're a competitive team, we're in the playoffs, but we still can't win the big game. I don't know if I'm running a team, the purpose of getting my rosters to win a Super Bowl, not to make the playoffs, whether I've made it 10 years, 20 years straight, or if I missed it 12 years straight. Like you want to compete for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I think the easy answer here, I feel like, is like this whoever they get's a bridge to whoever they think their next long-term guy is. I wouldn't be shocked if they do we're gonna get a veteran here. He plays for 2-3 years, and then like we're gonna draft somebody in the middle rounds to develop that guy, hoping he's ready.
Yeah, I mean that could very well be the case. That there's no matter who they end up with here, it's not a long-term solution. I mean, whether it's Rodgers, Carr, Tannehill, 3 years tops for any of those three.
Yeah. Jimmy G, I put in that bucket too. I feel like he's also in the play for them.
Yeah, and Jimmy G as well.
Yeah, I will say in terms of the correct thing, I think you guys are making the right call to move on from Rodgers. If he does opt to come back and not retire, which I don't think he will. I think his ego's too big to share the same Hall of Fame class as Tom Brady. I feel like he's going
to that's definitely not happening. He's not sharing that Hall of Fame class with Tom Brady. There's no way that is happening. He's playing football. Yeah, I'd be shocked if he's not. But I think he's playing. I just don't think he's playing in Green Bay. And you know what? I'm curious to see what this whole like darkness,
retreat thing.
I'm hoping he gets out of the dark and he just lets everybody know. I don't want this to continue. Let's start the off season and start planning ahead.
Plus, I feel like the Packers need to avoid falling in the trap the Saints have that keep on kicking the can down the road of the salary cap and just sort of like now just putting on average teams trying to slap band-aids on the roster with an average quarterback. Like I feel like the Packers should just like sort of let Love play and sort of like fix their cap and then see what they have in him and move on.
I mean, I really thought that this season was the perfect season to kind of see what you have in him. When they were a 4-win team, like I didn't think they had a chance to make a playoff, to get into the playoffs. So now you're playing your final game of the season with a chance to make the playoffs, which is wild. But, at that point, not that you want to throwing the flag, but it's like that would have been a perfect opportunity to really see and give him like a substantial amount of time. Not just, Aaron Rodgers has COVID, so let's throw Jordan Love in against the Chiefs and see what we got. I mean, that's not enough of a sample size. And I don't want to hear, preseason, right? Yeah. My concern, though, is that they would have already probably moved on if they thought Jordan Love was that guy. And I have a feeling he's going to be okay. But, I mean, I don't know. I really have no idea.
One of those will be off the roster. I feel like if Rodgers decides he's going to come back to Green Bay, you guys accept him. I think you're trade Jordan Love. I don't think you can sit and let the asset depreciate even more.
Well, I think at that point, if I'm Jordan Love, I'm saying I need to get me out of here. Like, I want to play football. And if you're Green Bay, how are you going to sign him without having him, a single snap?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if Rodgers returns, Jordan Love is gone, which then you circle back to that draft and you said what could have been, right? What could have been? We were that close to Super Bowl if he would have built the roster a little bit better in that draft rather than, GM taking control of, drafting his guy, could have been a different situation that we're talking about right now.
Yeah, real quick, we'll wrap up here on the local teams here. Besides the Jets, besides the quarterback, what else do you think you need to look at this offseason?
If I'm the Jets, I'm building that offensive line. And if you bring in Aaron Rodgers, you better build that offensive line. If you don't build that offensive line, even with Rodgers back there, you're going to have some trouble.
Yeah.
They got a lot of good skill position players, obviously good running back. But if you don't protect him, there's going to be some trouble. It's not going to be that easy. He doesn't move like he used to move.
Yeah, I feel like it's really the offensive line, which the good thing with Rodgers coming, I feel like there'll be some good players who will take discounts to come play with him and chase a ring, which would help. I do feel like that's an option. And you also look at, I think, the middle of the defense, the safeties and the linebacker, but they do need work on both those areas as well.
Yeah, totally. But I think you build that offensive line. Not only does it help Rodgers immediately if he ends up there, but let's say he doesn't. Like a good offensive line could turn a mediocre quarterback and make him look half decent if they have enough time to throw the ball.
Yeah, plus they have a great Swiss Army knife, and Elijah Vera Tucker comes back from the biceps injuries. Like he could play
Correct.
tackle spot or guard, depending on how you want to construct the line.
Which will be huge upon his return.
Yeah, and Giants squad, I feel like the obvious thing here is Jones and Barkley. I got to figure out what to do with both. I feel like Jones is definitely back. Barkley, like it's more 50-50 depending on how the market of the running backs goes. I feel like bring Jones back, get him more weapons, and sort of keep building the roster around them.
Yeah, I think you said that perfectly. Like this season proved that Jones deserves to be that quarterback. He bought himself some more time. I thought he played excellent. He made the proper adjustments and improved tremendously under new coach, new management. But now you got to support him. Now you got to support him. Give him a reliable target that he could go to on a consistent basis. And then on the defensive side, I mean, I would look at an inside linebacker to improve. They got to improve on stopping the run. They got to get better in that category. If they do that, I mean, listen, both of these New York teams turned it around big time this season. Expectations are really high.
Yeah, I think the Giants though do need more talent, especially on the outside. Because I mean, like I feel like this year was a lot of smoke and mirrors from Dable, but the schedule's gonna be tougher next year. I feel like you can't run into next year and have like Isaiah Hodgins and Richie James being in your top 3 receivers and having success. I feel like you got to get more talent around the quarterback.
No way. You got to give Daniel Jones someone that he could go to and rely on when he's in a pinch. And that's not disrespecting the guys that are on the roster right now that play their asses off by any means, but now it's time to surround them with some ball players and then see where you go from there.
Absolutely, Joe. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. If you want to follow your football takes on Twitter, how can they do that?
Yeah, they could give me a follow on Twitter at Joe_DALOISIO.
Yeah, don't forget that double, otherwise you won't find him.
You won't find me, Mike. You won't find me.
Yeah, you'll be in the dark as Aaron Rodgers otherwise.
You know what? I'm about to shut the lights now, so.
Okay.